Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's June 2nd, 2013, and this week we're going to cover 2/5 lines for jazz guitar. Now, this question was sent in from Monty. He's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he wrote in with this email to me. I ended up developing an interest in jazz after watching your videos on jazz guitar at the Creative Guitar Studio website. I purchased a few books from Amazon, and now I've started to feel kind of stuck. The area that these jazz guitar books harps on quite a lot is something called 2/5 jazz lines. Can you explain what a 2/5 line is and maybe demonstrate this? The books don't really do a very good job explaining exactly what they are. Thank you, from Monty in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Monty. You know, the 2/5 line in jazz is pretty much just a musical fragment that can cover the second and fifth chords of a key's harmony, with the musical line normally resolving into the home chord of the key. So, for example, if I was in the key of C major, the 2 chord would be D minor 7, and the 5 would be G dominant 7th. And as you might have guessed, the 1 chord would, of course, be the C major 7th. Now, in jazz music, the lines we tend to hear most often are fragmented combinations of notes from scales and arpeggios, and these fragments can fall anywhere in the line or anywhere in the bar. But the jazz musician's ultimate goal is to select notes that are carefully chosen to color the chords. So on that point, let's zoom in on the guitar neck and have a run through a few jazz 2/5-1 lines that I've composed for this video. The first 2/5-1 lick I'll cover will be one that is from the most typical 2-bar phrase. In this phrase, I've placed the 2/5-1 in the key of D major, and the chords will be in measure 1. We'll have an E minor traveling over to the 5 chord of A dominant 7th, and then we'll just resolve into our D major 7th in the second measure. So here's the chord changes basically. So once again, E minor 7 is the 2 chord in the key of D major, A dominant 7th is the 5 chord, and then D major 7th is, of course, the 1 chord. So here's our first 2/5-1 line. I'll play it slowly at first, and then we'll speed it up. It goes like this here. Okay, here it is again. And that covers the changes of Okay, let's go to the second example. Here I wanted to stay in the same key. However, this time I wanted to switch over to the second most popular 2/5-1 movement, which uses full bars for each of the chords. I'm still inside the key of D major here, with the only difference being the length of time spent upon each of the chords of the 2/5-1. So now we have a full measure of E minor, full measure of A 7th, and then a full measure of the D major 7. So here's the line. First of all, played slowly. It goes like this. Here it is again. Covering the sound of Okay, for the next 2/5-1 phrase, I wanted to shift into the sounds of minor keys. So I've stayed upon the same tonic here, so we're still going to use the note of D, but our root chord will have the tonality shift over to minor, so the chord will be a D minor 7. And once again, I'll be starting things off with a 2-bar phrase style example. The chord changes will be E diminished 7th. That's in the first measure is beats of 1 and 2, and then next we're going to move to A dominant 7th. And then for the second measure, we're going to go in resolve into a D minor 7 chord. So the chord changes will sound like this. And here's the line that's going to cover that. So it's a definite color shift when you go into the minor sounds, and you could also replace that E diminished seventh chord with a minor 7 flat 5, which is what we're going to do in our next progression. And this is the final example that I'm going to have today, and basically it's a 2-5-1 example. I wanted to finish things up by covering a whole bunch of things in this one. I'm still staying within the minor tonality. However, I've stretched out the progression so that it's more like example number 2, where each chord is existing within its own measure. But now another idea that I'm covering here is one that is very popular with many of the jazz pieces that you'll find out there, and it has to do with key signature. Many of those jazz standards out there are in flat keys. So we're going to be doing a 2-5-1 progression that's going to move through chords of the flat key of A flat minor. So in this final example, everything's going to be flats here. I have a 2-chord of B flat minor 7 flat 5 in measure 1, and then in second measure I'm going to move to a 5-chord of E flat dominant 7th, and then the resolution will occur in the third measure to the tonal center chord of A flat minor 7. So first of all, here's the chord changes. And the line is going to cover those chords. We're going to hear it move like this. Okay, here it is again, a little bit faster. And again, those chord changes sound like this. Well, you know, jazz guitar, whether it's bebop, Latin, or swing, has a definite language to the flow of its lines. And there are tons of possibilities when it comes to note combinations to convey the jazz sound. Now, since jazz is a language, then to speak it, we need to study and to be able to have a vocabulary for building the technique. And although scales and arpeggios are, of course, a part of the big picture, they won't do that much more for you learning the language of jazz than, say, a Greek dictionary would help you to learn to speak in Greek. Playing jazz involves learning to group your notes for the lines that you're creating into jazzy combinations with other groups of notes. And studying this way will help you to discover all kinds of cool musical phrases for jazz guitar. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.